Mummy in Manhattan. Scary story published by Scare Fiction. Chapter 1. The Discovery. The air was thick with anticipation as Dr. Emily Carter stepped onto the excavation site beneath the bustling streets of Manhattan. As an esteemed archaeologist, with a passion for uncovering the secrets of the past, she relished the opportunity to delve into the mysteries hidden beneath the modern metropolis. With a determined gaze, Dr. Carter surveyed the area, her eyes gleaming with excitement as she envisioned the treasures that lay buried beneath the earth. She was accompanied by her dedicated team of researchers, each one eager to assist in unraveling the secrets of the ancient tomb. As they began to excavate the site, the sound of shovels scraping against the soil filled the air, mingling with the excited chatter of the team. Hours passed in a blur as they meticulously unearthed layer after layer of dirt, uncovering fragments of pottery and other artifacts that hinted at the tomb's significance. Then, finally, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Dr. Carter's keen eye caught sight of something extraordinary, a faint glimmer of gold buried beneath the earth. With a surge of excitement, she motioned for her team to gather around as they carefully brushed away the dirt, revealing the outline of a hidden chamber. Heart pounding with anticipation, Dr. Carter took a deep breath and stepped forward, her hand trembling slightly as she reached out to push open the ancient door. With a creak of hinges, long unused, the door swung open, revealing a dimly lit chamber shrouded in shadows. As Dr. Carter stepped inside, she felt a sense of awe wash over her, mingled with a hint of trepidation. The air was thick with the scent of dust and decay, and she could feel the weight of centuries pressing down upon her as she gazed upon the treasures that lay within. And then, as her eyes adjusted to the dim light, Dr. Carter saw it a magnificent sarcophagus adorned with intricate carvings and hieroglyphs that seemed to pulse with an otherworldly energy. With a sense of reverence, she approached the sarcophagus, her fingers tracing the ancient symbols etched into its surface. And then, with a sense of anticipation that bordered on reverence, Dr. Carter reached out and lifted the lid of the sarcophagus, revealing the perfectly preserved mummy nestled within. Its face was frozen in a serene expression, its bandaged form adorned with jewels and amulets that gleamed in the faint light. But as Dr. Carter studied the mummy, her excitement began to give way to a sense of unease. For etched into the walls of the tomb were cryptic hieroglyphs that seemed to speak of a curse, one that promised doom to any who dared disturb the slumber of the ancient occupant. A fear ran down Dr. Carter's body as she realized the gravity of their discovery, for they had stumbled upon something far more than just a tomb. They had uncovered a mystery that would test their courage and determination to the very limits. But even as fear gnawed at her heart, Dr. Carter knew that she could not turn back now. For the secrets of the ancient tomb beckoned to her, promising untold riches and knowledge beyond imagining, and she would be damned if she let a mere curse stand in her way. Chapter 2. Unveiling the Curse. As the first rays of dawn illuminated the excavation site, Dr. Emily Carter and her team gathered around the ancient sarcophagus, their faces illuminated by the flickering light of their torches. The air was charged with excitement and anticipation as they prepared to unlock the secrets hidden within the cryptic hieroglyphs that adorned the walls of the tomb. With painstaking care, Dr. Carter and her team set to work, meticulously transcribing the ancient symbols that lined the walls of the chamber. Each stroke of their brushes brought them closer to unraveling the mystery that had remained hidden for centuries, and their hearts pounded with anticipation as they deciphered the meaning behind the cryptic messages. And then, finally, as the last hieroglyph fell into place, Dr. Carter's eyes widened in shock as she read the chilling words that stared back at her from the ancient stone. "Beware," the inscription warned, "for he who disturbs the slumber of the mummy shall unleash a curse that will bring doom upon all who dare to defy its power." A hushed silence fell over the chamber as the gravity of their discovery sank in. Dr. Carter's heart raced with a mixture of fear and excitement as she realized the implications of the curse they had uncovered. It was a warning from the past, a grim reminder of the dangers that lurked within the depths of the tomb. But despite the ominous message that stared back at them from the walls of the chamber, Dr. Carter and her team refused to be deterred. With a sense of determination that bordered on defiance, they brushed aside the warnings of the curse, dismissing them as nothing more than ancient superstition. "We've come too far to turn back now," Dr. Carter declared, her voice echoing through the chamber with unwavering resolve. "We cannot let fear dictate our actions. The secrets of this tomb must be revealed, no matter the cost." And so, with a sense of bravado that belied the unease gnawing at their hearts, Dr. Carter and her team pressed on with their research, delving deeper into the mysteries of the ancient tomb. They studied the mummy with a fervor bordering on obsession, cataloging every detail of its preserved form in their quest for knowledge. But even as they worked, a sense of unease lingered in the air, a creeping sense of dread that seemed to coil around them like a serpent waiting to strike. Shadows danced along the walls of the chamber, and strange whispers echoed through the darkness, sending shivers down their body. And then, as the hours stretched into days, Dr. Carter and her team began to notice subtle changes in their surroundings. Objects seemed to move of their own accord, and strange markings appeared on the walls of the tomb, as if etched there by unseen hands. But still, they refused to heed the warnings of the curse, clinging to their belief that they were masters of their own fate. And so, with each passing day, they delved deeper into the heart of the tomb, unaware of the darkness that lurked just beyond their reach, waiting to consume them in its grasp. Chapter 3: Strange Occurrences. The once bustling excavation site now lay shrouded in an eerie silence, broken only by the occasional creak of ancient timbers and the soft whisper of the wind. Dr. Emily Carter and her team moved about the tomb with cautious steps, their nerves on edge as they struggled to make sense of the inexplicable events that had begun to unfold around them. It started with the shadows dark, shifting forms that seemed to flit through the corners of their vision, disappearing as quickly as they appeared. At first, Dr. Carter dismissed them as tricks of the light or the product of overactive imaginations. But as the sightings grew more frequent, she could no longer deny the unsettling truth that something sinister was at play. And then there were the whispers, soft, disembodied voices that seemed to echo through the tomb, their words too faint to discern, but filled with an unmistakable sense of malice. They whispered of ancient curses and vengeful spirits. Their words scared down the of Dr. Carter and her team as they struggled to block them out. But perhaps most unnerving of all were the objects that seemed to move of their own accord, relics and artifacts that shifted and rearranged themselves when no one was looking, as if guided by an unseen hand. Dr. Carter and her team watched in horror as vases toppled from their shelves and tools vanished without a trace, leaving behind only a sense of unease and foreboding. With each passing day, doubt and fear crept into the hearts of Dr. Carter and her team, their once unshakable confidence giving way to a growing sense of unease. They huddled together in the dim light of their torches, casting nervous glances at the shadows that danced along the walls of the tomb, their minds racing with fear and uncertainty. "We can't ignore what's happening here," one of the team members whispered, their voice trembling with fear. "There's something wrong with this place, something evil." Dr. Carter nodded grimly, her heart heavy with the weight of their predicament. She had devoted her life to the pursuit of knowledge, but now she found herself faced with a mystery that defied explanation, a mystery that threatened to consume them all if they did not find a way to unravel its secrets. But as they struggled to make sense of the strange occurrences that plagued them, Dr. Carter and her team found themselves facing an even greater challenge, their own faltering resolve. Doubt gnawed at their minds, whispering words of despair and defeat. And with each passing day, it grew harder to cling to the belief that they would emerge from this ordeal unscathed. And so, as the shadows closed in around them and the whispers grew louder, Dr. Carter and her team found themselves teetering on the brink of despair, their hopes fading like the dying embers of a fire. For they knew that they were no match for the darkness that lurked within the depths of the tomb, a darkness that hungered for their souls and would stop at nothing to claim them for its own. Chapter 4: The Awakening. The night hung heavy over the excavation site, casting long shadows that danced eerily across the ancient walls of the tomb. Dr. Emily Carter stood at the heart of the chamber, her eyes fixed on the sarcophagus that held the slumbering mummy within. A sense of unease gnawed at her gut as she watched over the ancient relic, a feeling of foreboding settling over her like a suffocating shroud. Suddenly, a low rumble echoed through the chamber, causing Dr. Carter to startle in alarm. The ground beneath her feet trembled as if stirred by some unseen force, and she felt a fear down her body as she realized what was happening. The mummy was awakening from its centuries-long slumber. With bated breath, Dr. Carter watched as the lid of the sarcophagus began to shift, slowly creaking open with a sound that seemed to reverberate through the very air itself. A cloud of dust billowed forth, swirling around the chamber in a whirlwind of ancient power as the mummy within stirred to life. And then, with a suddenness that took her breath away, the mummy emerged from its tomb, rising up from the depths with a grace that belied its ancient form. Its eyes glowed with an otherworldly light as it surveyed its surroundings, its gaze falling upon Dr. Carter with a hunger that sent a shiver of fear down her body. In an instant, chaos erupted within the chamber as the mummy unleashed its wrath upon the unsuspecting archaeologists. With unearthly speed, it lashed out at Dr. Carter and her team, its bandaged fists striking with a force that sent them sprawling to the ground. Panic gripped Dr. Carter's heart as she scrambled to her feet, her mind racing with fear and desperation. She knew that they were no match for the ancient power that now stalked them within the confines of the tomb, and yet she refused to give in to despair. With a sense of determination that bordered on madness, Dr. Carter rallied her team, urging them to stand firm against the onslaught of the mummy's fury. Together, they fought back against the ancient evil, wielding whatever weapons they could find in a desperate bid to defend themselves against the relentless onslaught. But even as they struggled to hold their ground, Dr. Carter knew that they could not hope to defeat the mummy through brute force alone. They needed a plan, a way to stop the creature's rampage before it was too late. With a sense of urgency that bordered on desperation, Dr. Carter searched frantically for a solution, her mind racing as she racked her brain for any shred of knowledge that could help them in their hour of need. And then, in a flash of inspiration, it came to her a way to break the curse that bound the mummy to its eternal slumber. With renewed determination, Dr. Carter and her team set to work, gathering the tools and materials they would need to perform the ancient ritual that could banish the mummy back to its tomb once and for all. Time was running out, but they refused to give up hope. As the final moments of the night ticked away, Dr. Carter and her team stood ready at the heart of the chamber, their hearts pounding with anticipation, as they prepared to confront the ancient evil that lurked before them. With a sense of courage born of desperation, they began the ritual, their voices rising in a chorus of defiance against the darkness that threatened to consume them. And then, as the last words of the incantation echoed through the chamber, a blinding light filled the air, engulfing the mummy in a brilliant cascade of energy. With a deafening roar, the ancient evil was banished back to its tomb, leaving Dr. Carter and her team victorious but forever changed by their encounter with the forces of darkness. Chapter 5: Pursuit Through the City. The echoes of their victory still lingered in the air as Dr. Emily Carter and her team emerged from the ancient tomb, their bodies weary, but their spirits soaring with triumph. Yet, even as they basked in the glow of their success, a sense of unease settled over them like a dark cloud on the horizon. For they knew that the threat of the vengeful mummy still loomed large, its fury unabated by their efforts to banish it back to its tomb. With a sense of urgency born of desperation, Dr. Carter and her team fled into the streets of Manhattan, their hearts pounding with fear as they raced through the labyrinthine maze of alleyways and back streets. Behind them, they could hear the thunderous footsteps of the mummy as it pursued them with relentless determination, its unearthly howls echoing through the night like the wails of the damned. Chaos erupted in the city as word spread of the ancient evil that now stalked its streets. Panic gripped the populace as they fled in terror from the looming threat, their screams mingling with the roar of approaching sirens as emergency services scrambled to contain the unfolding disaster. Yet, even as they fled for their lives, Dr. Carter and her team refused to give in to despair. With steely determination, they pressed on through the chaos, their minds racing with the knowledge that they were the only ones capable of stopping the mummy's rampage before it was too late. As they ran, Dr. Carter cast furtive glances over her shoulder, her heart sinking with dread as she caught sight of the looming figure of the mummy hot on their heels. Its eyes burned with an otherworldly light as it closed in on them with terrifying speed, its outstretched hands reaching out to claim its prey. With a surge of adrenaline, Dr. Carter urged her team onward, their footsteps echoing through the deserted streets as they raced against time to find a way to break the curse that bound the mummy to its vengeful quest. They knew that they could not hope to outrun the ancient evil forever, but they refused to give up hope as they searched desperately for a solution to their plight. And then, just as their strength began to wane and despair threatened to consume them, Dr. Carter's keen eye caught sight of a glimmer of hope amidst the chaos. A flicker of recognition sparked in her mind as she remembered a passage from an ancient text, an incantation that had the power to banish even the most malevolent of spirits. With renewed determination, Dr. Carter led her team through the winding streets of Manhattan, their hearts pounding with anticipation as they neared their destination. They knew that their journey was far from over, but with the knowledge that they carried the key to defeating the ancient evil that pursued them, they pressed on with a sense of courage born of desperation. As they reached their destination, Dr. Carter and her team prepared to perform the incantation that would break the curse and banish the mummy back to its tomb once and for all. With bated breath, they began the ritual, their voices rising in a chorus of defiance against the darkness that threatened to consume them. And then, as the final words of the incantation echoed through the night, a blinding light filled the air, engulfing the mummy in a brilliant cascade of energy. With a deafening roar, the ancient evil was banished back to its tomb, leaving Dr. Carter and her team victorious but forever changed by their harrowing journey through the streets of Manhattan. Chapter 6: Unraveling the Mystery. With the threat of the vengeful mummy vanquished and the streets of Manhattan once again plunged into a semblance of calm, Dr. Emily Carter turned her attention to unraveling the mystery that had brought them to the brink of disaster. With a steely determination born of necessity, she delved into the annals of history, scouring ancient texts and manuscripts in search of the truth that lay hidden beneath the sands of time. As she pored over dusty tomes and faded scrolls, Dr. Carter's mind raced with possibilities, each discovery bringing her one step closer to unraveling the enigma that had plagued her for so long. And then, in a moment of revelation, she stumbled upon a passage that sent a shiver down her body, a passage that spoke of the mummy's true identity and the events that had led to its curse centuries ago. With trembling hands, Dr. Carter traced the words that danced across the page, her heart pounding with a mixture of fear and excitement as she uncovered the ancient secrets that had lain buried for centuries. It was a tale of betrayal and revenge, of love lost and lives destroyed, a tale that spoke of the mummy's tragic past and the curse that had bound it to its eternal slumber. But even as she unraveled the mystery of the mummy's true identity, Dr. Carter knew that their journey was far from over. For she had also learned of a ritual that held the power to banish the mummy back to its tomb and break the curse that had plagued it for so long. Yet, she knew that it came with great risk, for the ritual was fraught with danger and uncertainty. With a heavy heart, Dr. Carter gathered her team once more, their faces drawn with weariness, but their spirits undaunted by the challenges that lay ahead. Together, they set out to prepare for the ritual, gathering the tools and materials they would need to confront the ancient evil that lurked within the depths of the tomb. As they worked, Dr. Carter's mind raced with possibilities, each step bringing them closer to their goal, yet also closer to the brink of disaster. For she knew that the forces they were about to unleash were beyond their comprehension, and that the consequences of their actions could be dire indeed. And yet, despite the risks, Dr. Carter refused to back down. For she knew that the only way to truly banish the mummy back to its tomb was to confront it head-on, to face the darkness that lurked within and emerge victorious against all odds. With a sense of determination that bordered on madness, Dr. Carter and her team made their final preparations, steeling themselves for the battle that lay ahead. For they knew that the fate of not only themselves, but all of humanity rested in their hands. And they would be damned if they let fear or uncertainty stand in their way. Chapter 7. Gathering Allies. Dr. Emily Carter stood before a panel of experts in ancient curses and occult rituals, her heart pounding with a mixture of fear and determination as she pleaded her case. The room was dimly lit, the air heavy with the scent of incense and the weight of centuries-old knowledge that hung in the air like a shroud. "I understand your reluctance," Dr. Carter began, her voice steady despite the nervous flutter in her stomach. "But we are facing a threat unlike anything the world has ever seen. The mummy we uncovered poses a danger not only to ourselves, but to all of humanity. If we do not act quickly, the consequences could be catastrophic." The experts exchanged wary glances, their faces etched with skepticism as they listened to Dr. Carter's impassioned plea. They had dedicated their lives to the study of ancient curses and rituals, but even they were hesitant to confront a force as powerful as the one that now threatened to unleash its fury upon the world. "We understand the gravity of the situation, Dr. Carter," one of the experts replied, his voice grave with concern. "But you must understand that what you are asking of us is no small task. To confront such a powerful force is to invite danger upon ourselves and those we hold dear." Dr. Carter nodded solemnly, her eyes meeting theirs with a sense of urgency that bordered on desperation. "I know the risks," she replied, "but we cannot face this threat alone. We need your expertise, your knowledge, and your skills if we are to stand any chance of defeating the mummy and breaking the curse that binds it to its eternal slumber." For a long moment, there was silence in the room as the experts considered Dr. Carter's words. They knew that she spoke the truth, that the threat they faced was real and imminent. And yet, they also knew that to aid her in her quest was to invite danger into their own lives. But then, slowly but surely, a sense of resolve began to settle over the room. For they knew that they could not turn their backs on the responsibility that had been thrust upon them. They were the guardians of ancient knowledge, the keepers of secrets long forgotten by the world at large. And now, they had a duty to wield that knowledge in defense of humanity. "Very well, Dr. Carter," one of the experts finally spoke, his voice firm with resolve. "We will aid you in your quest to banish the mummy back to its tomb and break the curse that binds it. But know this, we do so not out of duty or obligation, but out of a shared commitment to preserving the safety and sanctity of our world." Dr. Carter nodded gratefully, her heart swelling with gratitude for the allies she had gathered. With their help, she knew that they stood a fighting chance against the ancient evil that threatened to engulf them all. And as they set out to prepare for the battle that lay ahead, Dr. Carter felt a flicker of hope ignite within her, a hope that, against all odds, they might yet emerge victorious against the forces of darkness. Chapter 8: Confrontation at the Museum. The museum stood silent and still, its halls empty, save for the looming presence of the ancient mummy that now lay in wait within its walls. Dr. Emily Carter and her allies approached with caution, their hearts pounding with anticipation as they prepared to confront the ancient evil that lurked within. As they entered the main exhibit hall, they were met with a scene of chaos and destruction. The mummy stood at the center of the room, its eyes blazing with an otherworldly light as it unleashed its wrath upon unsuspecting visitors who had unwittingly stumbled into its path. With a sense of urgency born of desperation, Dr. Carter and her allies sprang into action, their voices rising in a chorus of defiance as they prepared to do battle with the ancient evil that threatened to consume them all. They knew that they had only one chance to banish the mummy back to its tomb and break the curse that bound it to its eternal slumber. As the mummy advanced upon them, its bandaged fists clenched in fury, Dr. Carter and her allies unleashed their arsenal of spells and incantations, their voices rising in a cacophony of power and magic as they sought to weaken the ancient evil that now stood before them. But the mummy was not so easily defeated. With a roar of rage, it lashed out at Dr. Carter and her allies, its blows striking with a force that sent them reeling. Yet still, they refused to back down, their resolve unshaken as they pressed on with their assault against the ancient evil that now threatened to consume them all. As the battle raged on, Dr. Carter's mind raced with possibilities, each spell and incantation bringing them one step closer to victory. And then, in a moment of clarity, she realized what they must do. With a sense of determination bordering on desperation, Dr. Carter and her allies gathered together, their voices rising in unison as they began to perform the ritual that would banish the mummy back to its tomb once and for all. The air crackled with energy as they channeled their power into the ancient incantation, their voices rising in a crescendo of power and magic that filled the room with a blinding light. And then, with a deafening roar, the mummy was engulfed in a brilliant cascade of energy, its form writhing and contorting as it was consumed by the power of the ritual. With a final scream of defiance, it was banished back to its tomb, leaving Dr. Carter and her allies victorious but forever changed by their harrowing encounter with the forces of darkness. Chapter 9: sacrifice, and betrayal. The aftermath of the battle left the museum in ruins, its halls littered with debris and echoes of the fierce confrontation that had taken place within its walls. Dr. Emily Carter and her allies stood amidst the chaos, their faces drawn and weary as they surveyed the aftermath of their victory. But amidst the rubble and destruction, a heavy silence hung in the air, a silence born of the sacrifices that had been made and the betrayals that had been revealed in the heat of the battle. Dr. Carter's heart ached with a mixture of sorrow and regret as she looked upon the faces of those who had fought by her side, knowing that their journey had come at a great cost. For in the heat of the battle, sacrifices had been made, lives lost in the struggle to banish the ancient evil that had threatened to consume them all. Each loss weighed heavily upon Dr. Carter's heart, a grim reminder of the toll that their quest had exacted upon them all. But even as they mourned their fallen comrades, tensions ran high amongst Dr. Carter and her allies as they struggled to maintain control in the wake of the chaos that had engulfed them. Betrayals were revealed, alliances tested, and trust shattered in the crucible of battle, leaving them all grappling with the harsh realities of their shared ordeal. As accusations flew and tempers flared, Dr. Carter found herself caught in the midst of a storm of conflicting emotions. Doubt gnawed at her resolve as she questioned the decisions that had led them to this point, wondering if they had truly done what was necessary to achieve victory, or if they had simply succumbed to the darkness that lurked within their own hearts. But amidst the turmoil, a glimmer of hope flickered in the darkness, a reminder that, despite the sacrifices that had been made and the betrayals that had been revealed, they had emerged victorious against the forces of darkness that had threatened to consume them all. And as they stood together, amidst the wreckage of their shared ordeal, Dr. Carter knew that they would find a way to overcome whatever challenges lay ahead, united in their determination to rebuild and move forward, no matter the cost. Chapter 10, Race Against Time. Dr. Emily Carter's heart pounded in her chest as she and her team hurriedly prepared for the final showdown with the ancient evil that had plagued them for so long. The air crackled with tension as they raced against time, every second ticking away like a heartbeat echoing in the depths of the tomb. With sweat beading on their brows, Dr. Carter and her allies worked feverishly to complete the ritual that would banish the mummy back to its tomb once and for all. Their hands moved with a sense of urgency, born of desperation, their minds focused on the task at hand as they channeled their power into the ancient incantation that would seal the ancient evil's fate. But even as they worked, doubts and fears gnawed at the edges of their minds, threatening to derail their efforts at every turn. What if they were too late? What if the mummy broke free from its bonds before they could complete the ritual? The stakes had never been higher, and the weight of their shared burden hung heavy in the air like a shroud. As the ritual neared completion, Dr. Carter felt a surge of hope well up within her chest. They were so close now, so tantalizingly close to victory. But with victory within their grasp came the realization that failure was not an option, that the consequences of their actions would be dire indeed if they did not succeed. With a sense of determination that bordered on obsession, Dr. Carter and her team pressed on, their voices rising in a crescendo of power and magic as they poured their strength into the final moments of the ritual. The air hummed with energy as the ancient incantation reached its climax, the very fabric of reality trembling beneath the weight of their collective will. And then, with a blinding flash of light, the ritual was complete. The mummy let out a deafening roar as it was engulfed in a brilliant cascade of energy, its form writhing and contorting as it was dragged back to its tomb by the force of the incantation. But even as they watched the ancient evil vanish from sight, Dr. Carter and her team knew that their victory had come at a great cost. The toll of their ordeal weighed heavily upon them, their bodies weary and their spirits battered by the trials they had faced. As they emerged from the depths of the tomb, the weight of their shared burden lifted from their shoulders, replaced by a sense of relief and gratitude for the chance to start anew. For they had faced their fears and doubts head-on, emerging victorious against the ancient evil that had threatened to consume them all. And as they stood together, amidst the ruins of their shared ordeal, Dr. Carter knew that they had forged bonds that would endure even the darkest of times, that they had proven themselves capable of confronting the greatest challenges the world had to offer, and emerging stronger and more resilient than ever before. Chapter 11. The Final Stand. Dr. Emily Carter stood alone in the dimly lit chamber, her heart pounding in her chest as she faced the ancient evil that had plagued her for so long. The air was heavy with tension as she squared her shoulders, steeling herself for the battle that lay ahead. This was it, the final stand against the forces of darkness that threatened to consume her world. With a sense of determination born of desperation, Dr. Carter met the gaze of the mummy that loomed before her, its eyes blazing with an otherworldly light as it prepared to unleash its wrath upon her. But she refused to back down. Not now, not ever. She had come too far to let fear dictate her actions, and she would be damned if she let the ancient evil that lurked within the depths of the tomb stand in her way. As the mummy advanced upon her, its bandaged fists clenched in fury, Dr. Carter summoned all of her courage and resolve, her mind focused on the task at hand as she prepared to confront the ancient evil that now stood before her. With a defiant cry, she unleashed the power of the ritual that she had spent so long preparing, her voice rising in a crescendo of power and magic as she channeled her strength into the incantation that would banish the mummy back to its tomb, once and for all. The air crackled with energy as the ancient incantation reached its climax, the very fabric of reality trembling beneath the weight of Dr. Carter's will. And then, with a blinding flash of light, the ritual was complete. The mummy let out a deafening roar as it was engulfed in a brilliant cascade of energy, its form writhing and contorting as it was dragged back to its tomb by the force of the incantation. But even as she watched the ancient evil vanish from sight, Dr. Carter knew that her victory had come at a great cost. Toll of her ordeal weighed heavily upon her body weary and her spirit battered by the trials she had faced. Yet, even in the face of adversity, she refused to give in to despair, for she knew that she had faced her deepest fears and doubts head-on, emerging victorious against the forces of darkness that had threatened to consume her world. As she emerged from the depths of the tomb, the weight of her shared burden lifted from her shoulders, replaced by a sense of relief and gratitude for the chance to start anew. For she had proven herself capable of confronting the greatest challenges the world had to offer, and emerging stronger and more resilient than ever before. And as she stood alone amidst the ruins of her shared ordeal, Dr. Carter knew that she had forged a legacy that would endure for generations to come, that she had proven herself to be a true hero, capable of facing even the darkest of times with courage and determination. And as she gazed upon the world with newfound hope and optimism, she knew that no matter what trials lay ahead, she would face them head-on with unwavering resolve and unyielding determination. Chapter 12. Aftermath. The dust had settled, and the echoes of battle had faded into the dim recesses of memory. Dr. Emily Carter and her team emerged from the ancient tomb victorious but scarred by their harrowing ordeal. As they stood amidst the ruins of their shared ordeal, they knew that the memory of the mummy in Manhattan would haunt them forever. Silence hung heavy in the air as Dr. Carter and her team surveyed the aftermath of their final confrontation with the ancient evil that had threatened to consume their world. The museum lay in ruins, its halls littered with debris and echoes of the fierce battle that had taken place within its walls. But amidst the destruction, there was a sense of peace, a sense of closure that came with knowing that they had emerged victorious against all odds. Yet, even as they basked in the glow of their hard-won victory, Dr. Carter and her team knew that their journey had come at a great cost. Lives had been lost, sacrifices made, and betrayals revealed in the crucible of battle. Each loss weighed heavily upon their hearts, a grim reminder of the toll that their quest had exacted upon them all. But amidst the pain and sorrow, there was also a sense of gratitude for the chance to start anew, for the bonds forged in the fires of adversity, and for the lessons learned along the way. For they knew that their journey had not been in vain, that they had emerged from the depths of darkness, stronger and more resilient than ever before. As they reflected on the trials they had faced and the sacrifices they had made, Dr. Carter and her team found solace in the knowledge that they had confronted their deepest fears and doubts head-on, emerging victorious against the forces of darkness that had threatened to consume them all. They had proven themselves capable of facing even the greatest challenges the world had to offer, and they would carry the memory of their shared ordeal with them always, a testament to their strength and resilience in the face of adversity. And as they stood together amidst the ruins of their shared ordeal, Dr. Carter and her team knew that their journey was far from over. For the memory of the mummy in Manhattan would forever haunt their dreams, a reminder of the dangers that lurked in the shadows and the sacrifices that had been made in the name of victory. But they also knew that they had emerged from the depths of darkness, forever changed by their encounter with the ancient evil that had threatened to consume their world. And as they gazed upon the horizon with newfound hope and optimism, they knew that no matter what trials lay ahead, they would face them head-on, with unwavering resolve and unyielding determination. For they were survivors, warriors, heroes forever changed, but unbroken by the challenges they had faced and the battles they had won.